Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. Today I'm going to talk about the differences between black on black violence and police brutality. And to illustrate this point, I'm going to provide examples in Chicago. You have the killing of Tyshawn Lee, a 9-year-old African American boy who was assassinated by some neighborhood gangsters. And if you haven't seen it, I have two videos that I posted about his situation, so check those out. And then you have the killing of Laquan McDonald, an African American man who was gunned down by the police. This brother had a knife, and originally the police said that he tried to approach the officers with the knife or he lunged toward them. But video evidence has been produced, and that evidence shows that the brother was actually walking past the police, walking away from the police. He wasn't threatening the police with his weapon at all. And one of the officers, Officer Van Dyke, shot this brother, and he hit him once while he was standing up, and the brother spun around as a result of the impact from the bullet, and he hit the ground. And the police officer proceeded to shoot him multiple times until this officer unloaded his gun. So this brother, Laquan McDonald, was hit 16 times with bullets. And again, most of the shots hit him while he was on the ground, incapacitated. So I'm going to talk about the differences between these two. Today I was watching a video on YouTube, a CNN video about the demonstrations that are taking place in Chicago. These demonstrations are in response to the killing of Laquan McDonald. The people are in the streets demanding justice for Laquan McDonald. They have marched in the business district, and they have actually blocked the entrances to several businesses in that district. And people in the comment section to this video, they were asking, why are people marching against police brutality, but they're not marching against inner city violence? They're not marching against the killing of Tyshawn Lee. And I just want to talk about that whole question briefly in this video. Before I get started, I want to say this. People do march against inner city violence all the time. They have vigils against inner city violence. They protest and they speak out against inner city violence. But there is a different type of reaction to these different types of events. And there are different reactions for a couple of reasons, and I want to talk about some of those reasons right now. The first reason has to deal with expectations. We have different expectations for the police than we do for gangsters. Police are supposed to be public servants. Police are paid by citizens. Police are supposed to protect and serve the community. They are supposed to enforce the law. They are not supposed to break laws. They are not supposed to violate laws. They are supposed to keep us safe. They're not supposed to endanger us. So those are our expectations. Those are the elements of our social contract with the police. Now, the people who killed the people who killed Tyshawn Lee, those people were gangsters. We don't have the same expectations for gangsters that we have for police. We don't expect gangsters to uphold any laws. They're criminals, after all. We expect gangsters to violate laws. We expect gangsters to do what gangsters do. That's no justification for what they do. It's just a statement of fact. So we have a different expectation in terms of the people who are responsible for the crime. Now, we also experience a different type of response to these types of events. And I'm talking about a different response from law enforcement. So when you have a situation like the killing of Tyshawn Lee, the police are more prompt to take action. They are more likely to arrest the suspects, to charge the suspects, to have the suspects put on trial and convicted for the crimes. The suspects are more likely than not to be punished for their crimes when it involves so-called black-on-black violence. In Tyshawn Lee's case, his alleged killers were apprehended and arrested within a couple of weeks. Now let's compare that to the situation involving police. Police are rarely prosecuted for killing black people or just people in general. They are rarely even indicted. And when they are indicted and charged and tried, more likely than not, they get off. Also, rarely are police sanctioned for violating people's rights. Rarely are they punished within their own police department for violating people's rights. In this case of Laquan McDonald, the officer who killed the brother had like 18 complaints filed against him before he actually killed Laquan McDonald. So there's a different type of reaction. And here we are, a year after the killing of Laquan McDonald. And it took that long for them to actually press charges against Officer Van Dyke, despite having the video evidence from day one, the video evidence that shows this officer murdering the brother Laquan McDonald. A whole year later, the prosecution sat on this evidence, the police department sat on this evidence, the mayor of the city sat on this evidence, and the only reason why we even have the video and these charges against that officer is because journalists filed a lawsuit demanding that that videotape be released to the public. If it wasn't for the video, the brother Laquan McDonald would just be another dead nigger in America, and nothing would have happened at all. So the people were rightly outraged that it took a year for them to even bring charges against this guy. And we don't even know what the outcome is going to be. You already have people rationalizing this brutality, which is often the case. People rationalize it when police are involved. When police kill black people, they rationalize the killing of black people. Whereas in a gang related type of killing or a so-called black on black violence situation, no one is trying to rationalize that kind of brutality. So again, people who commit those types of crimes are more likely than not going to be convicted. But when the police is involved, a police officer is involved, it's unlikely that that officer will be punished. And from what I understand, this is the first officer who has been charged with a crime in a long time in Chicago. I don't recall how many years, but it's been quite a long time. So you have a different response and a different result when it involves police officers compared to inner city so-called black on black violence. Again, it took a couple of weeks for charges to be brought in Laquan Lee's case, No, in Tyshawn Lee's case, and it took a whole year, even though they had evidence, to bring charges against the officer who killed Laquan McDonald. So that's why you have this outrage. So those are just some of my thoughts, and I'm interested in hearing what you have to say about this issue because people often bring up this issue of black on black violence in order to silence our legitimate demand for justice. These people who raise this issue of black on black violence, they don't care about black on black violence. They couldn't care less about it. They are just raising that issue to silence our legitimate demand for justice.